I'm Debbie Bookstaber. I'm moderating the session today, and I wanted to make sure that I'll give the other panelists a chance to introduce themselves. So I am the president of Element Associates. We're an interactive digital agency and PR firm based in Philadelphia, and I'm also the CMO of Hash Tracking, which is a social media analytics tool to track hashtags on Twitter and Instagram. But I've also been blogging for many years, and this session is really going to focus on some of the things that you can use to increase your blog or website traffic in 90 days. And then if there's time in Q&A, we'll also touch on various ways to monetize that traffic. But a lot of this is different ways to increase your traffic, not just your blog traffic, but also all of your social media traffic, so you can double that really in 90 days. And I've done this with many clients, and it does work. And with that, I want to introduce my fellow panelists. Me first. Ann?
Hi, I'm Ann Parris. I started out blogging 7 or 8 years ago on my personal website. 3 or 4 years ago, I started an online magazine with some partners called Midlife Boulevard. We curate content for women over 40 and 50. It's a lifestyle magazine. I've run 2 conferences for that same segment, women bloggers over 40 and 50. I consult with companies and am a writer as well.
And I'm Kelby Carr, and I've been blogging actually since, I guess the math would be 2002, so 15 years.
Wow.
And have created websites of some sort since the early 90s, so definitely familiar with content creation. And I also am the founder and CEO of Type A Parent, which we're on our 10-year anniversary. Yay. And it started as basically a multi-author blog and became one of the first conferences for bloggers. So we're on, I think our next conference will be about our 33rd conference that we've had. So I have a community, pretty active community of bloggers as well.
And before we start, can I check who in the audience is a blogger, kind of consider themselves a traditional blogger? Raise your hand. Oh, good. Hey, y'all.
And which of you guys, if you're business people, have a blog or what you view as like a content site as a way of driving traffic for your store? Okay. And which of you guys are affiliates?
Pretty much everybody.
Alrighty, so you can all benefit from this. Also, our Twitter handles are up there, so feel free to connect with us on there. We love interacting with people on there. I still have a quirky handle, BuzzMommy, because I've been on Twitter since the early days, and I refuse to change it to something more professional, in part because I've just had it so long. So there.
You do you.
Yeah. Okay, is the clicker?
Nope.
Alrighty.
Sorry.
I had promised them I would sit next to them, but
This might not work.
it's cool.
Deb, there we go.
Oh, there it goes.
So apparently I just can't do it. Okay, so we've got a couple different topics that we want to go through to give you kind of a pretty good overview. But one of the first things I wanted to start off with was in terms of diverse traffic. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making is that they will they'll have like 90% of their traffic coming from one source, and then something happens, an algorithm change, or Facebook throttles the reach of posts, and then they'll have this enormous dive in their traffic. So you want to be at the point where you have traffic coming in, it's balanced from various sources. Yes, you do want to prioritize your time and attention to those that perform the best for you, depending on the type of your blog or your website. Every channel might not work for you as well, but you really don't want to put everything into one area. Do you guys have any comments on that before we move to the next?
Well, for me, I always prefer traffic that comes in from Google. I love organic traffic the best. I feel like it's the most stable, even with algorithm changes. I've had the most stability with that. Although for a lot of bloggers, if you do anything that works great on Pinterest, Pinterest can be a huge traffic driver. The only problem is their algorithm changes can be really seismic. I know this year people lost up to a third to a half of their traffic from Pinterest when they did a shift sometime this spring, and are struggling to get that back. So that's another reason to diversify through multiple social channels as well as email.
Well, and I would say too, even the Google thing, like over the years, I've seen multiple times where some really top content sites have taken a nosedive, and some haven't even made it past it because they put so much emphasis on SEO. One of the sites that I wrote for early on is where I learned the most probably about SEO, and they took a big hit from, I don't know, maybe a 2 or 3 year ago algorithm change and never really recovered. So I think, you want to honor your sweet spot and nurture that, but it shouldn't ever be where the lion's share of your traffic is coming through, because I will guarantee you, no matter what that source is, one day that source is going to dry up.
Yeah.
It'll happen. So don't ever assume something is a given.
Yeah, and they can change, and it's hard to build a house on land you don't own.
Exactly.
The only thing I trust is my website. I know for people who did affiliate links on Pinterest, they stripped all those links off all of a sudden, and then later they're like, no, we changed our mind, you can do it again. But in the interim, people who had a nice little daily, weekly, monthly income lost that.
And certain affiliate programs don't allow you to promote directly. So, for example, Amazon doesn't like it when you promote directly on there. So it depends on, sometimes they'll let you, sometimes they don't. It really just, it depends on the individual program, what you can do or not do. We'll just go to the next slide.
Okay, clickaroo. No, it's not just you, Debbie.
Okay.
There, you talk.
It was not just me then. The clicker is, so the next slide is about SEO basics. So obviously, I want to talk about some of the most useful tools, some tips, and also some of the biggest mistakes that people make. But so first, let's start with some of the tools. So two of the tools that I recommend to bloggers and small business people because they are very affordable. And I feel like if you're serious about your business, you can make an investment of $100 or so a month on a tool. If that's out of your reach, then you should evaluate whether or not it's a hobby or a business. So two of the tools that I recommend often are Moz. They have a subscription where you can have your site crawled. You can they'll notify you if there's errors. It's obviously a good supplement to Google Webmaster Tools, which you should all be using anyway. And the other one's Majestic, which is has some similar things to Moz, but they're both really good. And I would just say to take a look at some of those tools, invest in one, even if you need to share a subscription with somebody else to say if it allows you to crawl more than one site or set up more than one campaign, that's a good thing. In Moz, for example, you can set out some of your keywords and you can see some of your competitors. You can see, it can help you research some inbound links. It can also help you see if you're going up or down. It can sometimes help you catch a problem before it's too late, before it escalates, before you get a penalty or something like that. What are some of the favorite tools for you?
I've used SEMrush and SERPstat. I got a really screaming deal on SERPstat through SumoMe for lifetime for no dollars. It was amazing. SEMrush is more expensive, but it's been very, very much worth it for me for keyword research and also checking on competitors.
And basically, sometimes you just have to pay for a tool because there's your time has value as well. So if it helps save you some time, that's a useful thing.
Yeah, and I would say too, it's kind of obvious, but make sure that you have Google Analytics, and I like to have too, like Clicky. I like having because you need to at least periodically be in there to see what's happening and to see where your traffic sources are. So, none of these other investments are going to matter if you're not keeping a decent eye on watching what's effective and what's not, or seeing, you can see that your traffic is plummeting from one source, or see that it's skyrocketing from one source. So you've got to keep an eye on those statistics. And I know sometimes people just don't like them. You don't have to obsess, but at least once a week take a peek and see what's going on. Yeah. And I think even in Google Analytics, you can get it to email you.
You can set up some auto emails, auto updates.
Yeah, so you don't even have to think about it. It'll just send you maybe an every Monday or an every Friday email summarizing the last week. So.
Yeah, when I first started using Google Analytics, I got super into it and was checking it every day. Now I try to pace myself. I have the app on my phone, and it's excellent, and it gives you kind of a different view of it. I think it's a little easier for me to consume through the Google Analytics app for my phone. Yeah. And that's free.
Yeah. And again, if you're not on using the Google Webmaster Tools, please use them. It's just check them. There's so many times where somebody will say to me as a favor, can you take a look at my site? I'm pretty sure Google gave me a penalty. And we'll log into Webmaster Tools and we'll see everything, and there's no penalty. There's so much misinformation going around, especially in the blog world when it comes to SEO. And that's why one of the things I want to talk about are some of the bigger mistakes that people make when it comes to their SEO, because we've all seen many.
Made many.
Well, I think, we were talking a bit about this before we came up here, but I think also this sort of like gut reaction when you hear from somebody who's supposedly an expert who tells you suddenly need to do something that involves a lot of work and effort and changing of things. I think I wouldn't have a knee-jerk reaction to anything with SEO unless you really need to, and you'll know if you do. But I mean, I'm trying to think good, but sometimes you have people go, all your posts have to be like this, all your this, and one, if you don't know SEO well, you don't want to suddenly flip a switch on something major, and suddenly like your links aren't being followed, and you really take a hit. So if you hear something and somebody is telling you have to do this, and you've never heard it before, at least ask around and check into it and make sure it isn't something that you're just going to have to redo another way in a month when rules change.
And also research things before you do them. So for example, it's very trendy to take the dates out of your URL strings. And sure, that's great if you know how to do that. But I've seen so many bloggers where they make that change to take the dates out of their URLs because they wanted to be able to reuse some of their old content. And they're saying, well, I can't reuse that content until I take the dates out of the URLs. And in the olden days, for people who've been blogging a long time, right, the dates were automatically in there. So they'll do that, but they won't fix any of their redirects. And then all their traffic will plummet. Or you have another example of somebody who had her traffic plummet.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about too many tags, and so I had a friend who deleted almost all the tags on her posts, and I said, "Oh, did you set up redirects?" And she didn't, and her traffic tanked by half within a month. She didn't. She was like, "My traffic tanked," and then we backed into the fact it was because she had deleted so many tags and not done any redirects.
Or what about your friend who deleted her old posts?
Oh, yeah, she deleted another friend. I got a lot of friends. She deleted old posts as well because they weren't getting any traffic. Well, they were from, again, when we used to do a lot of link ups and roundups. So they had a lot of backlinks from a lot of old sites that were now very well established sites. So she lost all that juice by deleting those posts that were getting no traffic. So sometimes things will have a purpose that you don't see or understand for your site. And if you get rid of them or change them without knowing what you're doing, you can completely
And I feel like
tank.
I see that, a lot. It's sort of like, now, today, this is the thing we all have to do.
And there's a lot of self-proclaimed SEO experts, so I would say check with credible sources. So, if you're not seeing it in some of these credible sources for the people who are the known experts in the entire industry, take it with a grain of salt.
And I think that's the benefit of Affiliate Summit. When you get an SEO expert here, they're true working professionals, and it's always been advice that I've taken that I could trust that has paid off.
So other things that I definitely recommend that people do, especially if you've had a site for a while, definitely run your broken link checkers, check those things. I mean, there's certain basic things that if you invest, I always tell people, even if you're investing, 15 to 20 minutes a day in what I would call like SEO maintenance tasks. Obviously, if you have a bigger website, it's going to be more of an investment, and hopefully you can outsource it or you have some assistance. But even as a basic blogger, spend that 10 to 20 minutes, spend that time doing some basic stuff, whether you're running a broken link checker, whether you're updating things, whether you're making sure that your old posts have the proper disclosures. Any of those things that you can do can be really useful. But one other tip that we wanted to share is we wanted to share some actual SEO tips that you can use to increase traffic. And one of the things that I also wanted to we were discussing this at breakfast, was people overinvest in their time. So you only have a certain amount of time, and so there's an opportunity cost for your time. So if you spend 5 hours on something, you don't have that 5 hours for something else unless you've got extra money to hire extra help, and at some point you'll run out of money, right? So if you're over-investing in things, I've often seen people where, okay, well, they're not going to start on this new content initiative until they've updated every single old post in their site for their meta descriptions. Well, yeah, those things are useful because they can increase some of your click-through rate. It's one of those things that it can be very nerve-wracking to see a report, well, here's all of the things that aren't optimized about your site. But they will focus on that to the point where they won't focus on their other main marketing opportunities to bring things in. So you have to focus on your money tasks as well. So I tell people, set a timer. If it's a timer on your phone or whatever, set a timer for some of these things. Because otherwise you can wind up driving yourself crazy. You'll overinvest to the point where you won't be actually building your business.
And consider what your hourly rate is. I mean, if you're doing something for 5 hours, would I pay, X $100 for this service? And if it's no, you're probably not using your time that well.
And so one of the first things that we try to tell people to do is to look at your archives. Look at your Google Analytics and look at your archives. Are there posts in there that could be organized into a better post? Are there, descriptions that could be changed? Are there places where you might want to reshoot photos? So.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that very often as bloggers, we're always looking on to the next thing. We hit publish, and then we think, what are we going to publish next? Where very often we have these rich back catalogs of things that every once in a while need to be touched to add more content, to update the pictures. And that sends a strong signal to Google to interlink those posts that are on the same topic that you wrote in different times and forgot were on the same topic. So instead of always looking forward and just churning ahead, see what you've got that's already an asset that can be made a stronger asset.
And certainly seasonal content, like republish stuff that's seasonal. We're the only ones who think everyone remembers everything we've ever published, and nobody else does.
Nobody does.
So, and I mean, the few who do aren't going to be like mad that you republished something that was seasonal. So I'm always sort of surprised at the reluctance to repost a post that is completely evergreen and, is tied to something seasonal. And, and going through those old posts, you can find stuff that's old content that you freshen up, republish, but you can also package it together into a new hub page, an ebook, a free giveaway, a one sheet, whatever. You can do a lot of things with that it's just sitting there otherwise.
Yeah.
So one other thing on this that it's important is to take a look at your page load times and your mobile readiness of your site. If you have been blogging for a long time, you probably have a lot of photos that you uploaded back in the days before you really knew what you were doing that might be, they might have high image sizes. They might be other things that are slowing your site down. You might have installed a lot of plugins that you don't even use based on somebody's advice. Some of them might be outdated. Some of them might even be security risks. But for some of those plugins, they might also be really slowing down your site. I looked at a client site recently, and they had this one plugin that they put in there, and when we removed it, it increased the load time of their page by 3 seconds, which might not seem like much, but it's a lot, and your bounce rates are another critical factor, right? They're looking, when Google sees people clicking through to your site, they're looking to see how many of them bounce. They're looking to see, how long do they stay on the site. They're seeing some of those things. So if your page takes too long to load, not only is that a factor for Google, but it could increase your bounce rate. It really hurts you. So I would say, sometimes you have to prioritize it. So look at some of the bigger things, and things like photo size, things like how fast is your page loading. And there's a lot of free tools that can help you actually analyze how fast your page is loading.
Which, do you use one in particular? Is there one you like?
I frankly use, Google has a page checker. The Google page checker is the best one, and they will actually, in there, they'll give you a rating, both mobile and regular, for your page, and they'll actually give you recommendations for what to do to reduce the page load time.
I'm still surprised at the old themes that I'm still seeing when I visit other blogs. If you haven't updated your theme in a year or two, you really must. It'll if it's any older than that, it's probably not mobile responsive, and you're going to be taking a hit.
Yeah, and then other things on the SEO side, there's web page testing .org. That's a useful site. It can also help you look at some of the image size and other things. Crazy Egg, I love Crazy Egg. That's not really an SEO tool as much as it's a usability tool. It can show you some heat maps. It can show you how things work on your site. But I've had clients for whom using Crazy Egg can help us choose to change the way a slider is, change a certain call to action, and it really reduces that bounce rate. And ultimately, it increases your conversion, and it increases the quality of the traffic and how long it stays on your site.
And then the next one, try it again. I'm just always hoping, always hoping.
Okay. I don't mind popping up. I can stay up there too if you want.
No, don't stay up there. It's fine.
Okay, so the next one is Pinterest. Now, Kelby actually literally wrote the book, or 2 books on Pinterest. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about Pinterest. This can be a major source of traffic to your site. What are some of the tools that you guys use and really like for Pinterest?
I love Tailwind. I
love
use
Tailwind too.
Tailwind every single day. It's so easy to use. It's a premium tool, so there's a monthly fee. And I think my favorite thing about Tailwind is that the tribes have a lot of power. Mm-hmm. If you're in a good tribe, then you are sharing and are shared by other great bloggers. And for me, that's the main thing. A lot of people use Board Booster.
That's another good one too.
Yeah, I like to keep it simple.
And say you have people on your team. So there's courses that you can buy that can help train them. So I don't have time to train every single person on my team. I have a small agency. We're very lean. But I invested in, for new people, if they're going to be doing Pinterest, I invested in a course called Pinning Perfect, and I had them run it. And they also, the same people that do Pinning Perfect, also have a course about how to use Tailwind effectively. Yeah. Now, you can also figure out how to use Tailwind effectively by reading the help files. But in my experience,
who's got time for that?
Asking people to do that, I would do that. That's how I do it. And what I do in my spare time as a nerd. But
what's Mel's site for Pinning Perfect?
If you could just Google Pinning Perfect, you'll find it.
It's Blog Clarity.
Blog Clarity. I've used her courses.
Her courses are really good.
For years, and I think the best thing about her courses is then you're added to a professional Facebook group with lots of other content creators.
And they're really affordable.
And Mel, the lady who produces the courses, she's works for Burt's Bees and manages their social accounts, so she has direct contact with Pinterest itself. So her information is usually the most correct and the most up to date.
I just paid to have even the people who work for me to take it because for I think it's under $300. I forget what the exact price is. I was able to train them up on something that would have taken a day or more of my time. And so that helps them understand how to use a great tool like Tailwind to use the tribes. And that actually reminds me of something else we were talking about at breakfast, which was the people who don't like sharing other people's content on Pinterest.
Oh, they suck.
There's no point.
And that's why
it's social media. Be social.
Yeah, I've seen. That's what I was talking about. That my biggest pet peeve is I've seen people who sort of basically their whole thing is to just share yourself over and over and over and over again.
That was the tip for a while. The tip for a while was to...
And I think that's disgusting. I don't know, it's social media. Like, I don't even care if that's effective. I don't want to be an asshole on Pinterest. Like,
but it's actually not effective.
It's not.
No, I mean, even if it were, even if it were, like, it doesn't make sense. If you're on social media, that is a community. You're interacting with other humans, and you should act like it.
So who here is already using Pinterest? Is everyone using Pinterest? Think outside the box, even if you're not food or DIY or bridal.
I've seen a lot of other topics do well on Pinterest.
One of the best pins ever for me that gives me hundreds of page views every day is one's about hearing loss, and one is about the end of a friendship. I didn't write these are posts I curated, but who knew that posts like that would do so well? But they for whatever reason, they had great keywords, and they just produce day after day.
And having a good image. I mean, you got to have the
And
good
right now,
image.
Pinterest is a great search engine for business as well. A lot of marketers are building their marketing brand through Pinterest pins. So, and again, while the image is important, really it's going to be discovered through the keywords and the description. So that's a thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and you really want to have a strong call to action within what you're doing. So I mean, it's some of the things that have been very effective for Pinterest is if you actually have something on Pinterest, say it's top cleaning tips, right? And you want to. I've actually sold a lot of vacuum cleaners through affiliate links, right? Oddly, but you want to give people a reason to click through, right? So if they click through, you can have all your affiliate links on that landing page, or you can have a really interesting call to action that. It's the top tips for whatever, and they come to it, and they come to a landing page where they can sign up for your newsletter, and there's a specific drip process, funnel process just for people who came through that pin. So some of that stuff can be very effective. Other tips for Pinterest. We were talking about things that people do that can be ineffective, an ineffective thing on Pinterest, whether it's deleting or your follower count or...
Oh, yeah, we've wasted so much time on Pinterest, like making pretty... board banners, the headers for the board, and making sure that your the about you section is great. Nobody sees that. Nobody looks at that. Nobody's coming to your profile to view your pins. They're discovering it through their own stream, and that's based on the Pinterest algorithm. Nobody's looking at your specific thing. And also now the latest word from Pinterest itself is that your follower count is now just a vanity metric. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. You can have 0 followers and still a pin can get swept up into the beautiful algorithm and get you huge counts. So
And I've definitely seen that. Like I know you were talking about, was it?
Yeah,
that was somebody who had 50 followers. I've seen a few times where somebody has pinned stuff from Type A, and it's gone crazy. And I'm looking because you kind of want to dig and go, well, who's this magical, influential person or whatever? Yes. And they have like 50 or 100 followers.
So followers don't matter. It's now a search engine. They call it a discovery engine.
I have a client that has about 20,000 followers on Pinterest, but we're regularly getting 3 million or more impressions on Pinterest, and it's a significant driver of traffic to their website. And yeah, so we're sharing other people's content when it's relevant, because some of that can help. It all kind of helps in the algorithm. For the things that are our content, we're making sure to be really careful about putting the right descriptions in, filling out the things properly. Sometimes we might test more than one pin for a particular piece of content. There's nothing saying that you can only have one pin and one image for a blog post or a post on a page.
Yeah.
You can have multiple. So if you think of like the various headers within your page, they can each, if they're relevant, I mean, you can do that. And then after a while, you can start testing and seeing which kinds of call to actions, which kinds of pin titles work best for you, for your reader. It's not all about the amount of traffic. It's about which ones do the right thing, right? So if one pin gets crazy numbers but is not actually leading to email signups or page visits,
it's useless.
Okay,
it's
so it's
a vanity
great.
metric.
It makes you look good, but it's not really beneficial financially.
Well, I don't think this is probably the best place to really dig deep into it, but I think also looking into rich pens and things like that, especially if you're selling something, you can be a buyable pen, and if particularly like I know recipes have rich pens, and so if it's worth at least researching how to do the rich pens and making sure that you are doing it if it makes sense, because that can make a big difference too.
And something to research is Pinterest Lens. So Pinterest is becoming an important thing for product discovery as well. So even if you're a fashion blogger or you have particular products, they're starting to really, really focus their image recognition. And so you want to think of the various ways in which, even if you're not tagging something with something, it could still wind up being recognized and included within Pinterest Lens searches. And so it's something that when you start thinking of some of the images or other ways in which you might want to be using Pinterest to drive that lens, that Pinterest lens is, there's a lot of different articles and other things that you can use to learn about how that works, but it's definitely something that's going to continue to grow in importance. Other kinds of inefficient tips. I have seen people spend hours deleting old pins after analyzing all their pins, and they delete them. So it's not, your old pins are not going to hurt you. If you want to delete them because they get no traffic and you just don't like the way that they look, sure. But
this is such busy work. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, people put a lot of time into busy work, and then they don't focus on the important things.
Making money.
So for example, Kelby, you were talking about how you had a series of pins on Pinterest from the early days of Pinterest that had done well, but that you felt could do better if you just had updated them and replaced the images.
Yeah. Well, no. So those were actually posts, but
posts. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I had a few different article topic areas where we had a lot of content. The content was old because we've been around a while. It didn't have good images because when it was written, that wasn't a big thing to have a big image on your blog post. So basically, I outsourced to have somebody put new pictures, tweak the top of the content to make it better, maybe change up the title to, optimize it better for SEO, and then ultimately created hub pages. So I did it on a few different topics. One was canning. We had a bunch of canning articles. One was like Walt Disney World travel, and there were about 3 or 4 different ones where I just went through, and winter soup recipes was one. So there were like 3 or 4 different ones where we just pulled old. It did not a single bit of new content was created except the hub page that linked to everything
You polished
together.
and updated old posts for.
And you can drastically increase the traffic.
And the traffic, I would say that after doing that, in the next couple months, those hubs and their subsidiary posts were probably the bulk of the traffic, and we got a ton of Pinterest traffic doing that. And it didn't take a lot because it was all sitting there. It was just low hanging fruit. So
Yeah.
Okay. So the next is Facebook. So for many of my clients, Facebook is actually one of the #1 sources of traffic to their website. But a lot of people, there's a lot of confusion about how Facebook works. So I did want to talk a little bit about some of the tools. So for example, scheduling in Facebook. You guys all know that you should really be focusing on using Facebook's native scheduler, correct?
It's the only thing I use. I don't use
Because
anything
Facebook does throttle the reach of posts if they're done through another tool. So as much as I love Sprout Social, I've used it. I was one of their earliest users, and I use that for Twitter and some other things, and plus I love their analytics. I don't use that for scheduling posts on Facebook. It's also important to stay up with the Facebook developers community, which is you can literally find on Facebook developers. So you can see when things are changing. Like the link preview images, they're all changing. And so that's going to impact your website. So if you want people to share something from your website to Facebook, if you haven't set what the default image is, people will soon be sharing it and might have the wrong image with it. In the default shares. So there's things like that if you're not up to date on those things and you don't ensure that certain settings within your website are correct, it will actually throttle and prevent your own fans from helping to share your content to Facebook if you want it.
That is one of my favorite plugins. I use Social Warfare, and that helps me set the image that I want to be shared to Facebook when someone shares the post to Facebook. It's a premium plugin, but it's only like $24 a year. And what I like about it is it also shows me the social share count on the post. So that's another form of social cred that helps, it encourages people to share. But that setting of that image is the most helpful thing right now.
And that's important because, you see, Anne knows about that because she follows things like Facebook developers, so she knows some of the things that are about to happen before they happen, and then you're scrambling to fix things. Because they do give you, people always say, oh, and then Facebook changed this with no notice. Well, actually, no, they did give notice. They pretty much always give notice of these changes that are happening. It's just that people aren't reading the pages. Other tools that can be really helpful is one of the things we were talking about this morning was the importance of sharing other people's content on Facebook. Because if you're only sharing your own content over and over and over again, one, it's kind of boring. And two, it doesn't necessarily help you generate the most viral traffic or really take advantage of the algorithm in Facebook. So one of the things Facebook likes to do is keep people on Facebook. So if you are sharing a lot of stuff that's all just direct links to your website, unless you're boosting some of those posts, they don't give them the same exposure as if you upload a video, upload directly into Facebook. Not like embed a YouTube, but upload your own video into Facebook. They will give that more reach than if you have just a link to your site. Sometimes once you've already started getting the reach on that, and you've gotten that boost and it's really started to generate, then you can add in links to your site, or you can add in a link to your site in the comments. And if it's a recipe somebody wants enough, they're going to start following you on Facebook, or they will eventually click to it. Other tools that have been really useful to find some things that would be good viral content that performs well on Facebook. You can actually help grow your reach and increase your organic audience by sharing content that's starting to trend. I look through BuzzSumo is a great tool because, especially if you're doing a topic that's harder to find some of those viral posts.
And I don't use BuzzSumo. Is that a premium
It's a premium
service?
tool. And then another premium tool that you could use that's like a BuzzSumo, slightly less expensive, is DrumUp. You can use these to start finding other things, other posts that are really performing in your area of interest. So it can give you a sense of some pages that you might want to be sharing from. Obviously not your competitors, but people that are, could be kind of your friends or in your same general area. So if you have a toy company, you might be sharing from parenting websites. You're not going to share a competitor toy company, right? But you might be sharing things that are as content that would be of interest to your fans.
Oh, I share my competitors because they've shared me back, and some of them have much bigger audiences than me, and I don't feel like it costs me anything.
Well, sharing a blog competitor might be different from sharing a product competitor.
Absolutely true.
Right.
Yes.
So, and so I guess on that, let's talk about boosting. I tend to think that it's something you just have to do.
Well,
I get so resentful.
I think just using the boost is not, just clicking boost is a bad idea. But I think that, and I think we have a later slide where we talk about advertising, but I think that it's really important to
Be methodical.
Yeah, well, no, to be set up so that you can advertise, and if you're smart about it, you can spend so little advertising on Facebook and get so much out of it that you could spend $5 a day and get a ton out of it.
Yeah.
So
What's your best tip for that?
I think you need to have your pixel installed so that you know who your audience is. And when you start drilling down to that, you can go to specific URLs. And I've done that actually quite a bit, where I've created audiences of people who just go to my registration page for a specific event. Mm-hmm. And then when we're going back to that town, you can target people, whatever.
So for targeted marketing, retargeting.
Yeah, and I also upload your email list. And creating lookalike lists is crazy effective. So even if your list is pretty small, you can create a lookalike list that's, millions of people, and they seem to really, really, really be alike. So it's kind of crazy how effective it is. And then you can target, and then you can drill those people down and target them however you want. So.
And so one other tip there is definitely if you're going to be boosting on Facebook, boost from within the Facebook ad manager. So like don't when you're just like on your Facebook page, just click the automatic boost button because you don't get the same options and you can't test it as well. So it's important to kind of test the different types of posts. You can also reuse a post. So if you have a post that really performs, oftentimes people will think, well, I've already used that this month, or I used that last month. No, you can reshare it because not all of your audience has seen it. So you can continue to build upon a successful post. We had a client where we posted a blog post on Facebook, and we started boosting it. It started getting some traction. We wound up ultimately using that post in repeated ways for over 2 months until it finally started dying down. Because until it started dying down and we were getting hundreds of thousands of hits from it, why would we stop promoting it? Yeah. Keep promoting it. So there's always this constant rush for new that's not always needed. Yeah. If you don't have your Facebook Pixel installed on your website, come on, install that. The other thing that we will talk about...
Well, if you don't know how to, like if you use WordPress, you don't need a plugin to do something that basic, but if you need a plugin, get a plugin. You know what I mean? Like if that's the only way, if it's that or it's not going to happen, do it.
Yeah. We're going to talk about later on in this presentation about Facebook groups, so we are going to discuss that. The other thing that I wanted to share is another tool that can be really useful, video. It is so great to have video on your website, on your Facebook page. There are certain tools that you can use even if you're not a great video person, even if you just only have some static images in a blog post you want to promote. A tool like Lumen5, Lumen, the number 5.com, can help you create videos that can show up on Facebook. Also, in a pretty quick order. Also, if you're doing these videos, keep in mind that a lot of people watch videos on Facebook without the sound on. Mm-hmm. So you will actually have better performance if you can have those subtitles or the text in your video than if you expect them to watch it with sound.
And Facebook is all about video right now, so if you can turn a static post into a video, then you've exponentially increased your reach for that post.
Yep, pretty much.
And Lumen 5 is stupid easy to use, and it takes exactly from your post and it makes it a little tweakable, and boom, 5 minutes you've got a video. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
And we're going to be talking about Facebook Live a little later on. The next thing we wanted to talk about was email and newsletters. So I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they only have that one newsletter for their blog. And it will just be like whenever they have a new post, that newsletter will go out automatically. Or maybe they'll do a monthly one, which is a range of some of their posts. But for example, I had a site that I'd been blogging at for 10 years. Well, I now have children that are elementary age, but some of our most popular or most profitable content relates to babies. Because guess what? Pregnant women and moms of infants buy more stuff. So that's my best affiliate links. So if I can have certain like lead pages or landing pages in which I sign people up for a specific email that goes just like some of that content, and I set up that kind of drip campaign, that campaign where they come in through that. Maybe there's a contest to win a certain thing in the baby space. So I know that these are moms of babies or pregnant moms, and then they get certain emails that are just designed for moms, for pregnant moms or moms of babies. I don't have to keep redoing those emails. I can do those emails once and have them refer affiliate links to me.
And do you do that through your email?
You can do this through MailChimp if you're good at knowing how to create your forms, or there's tools that allow you to do it on an easier basis where you can create, I like Lead Pages and I like ConvertKit. Both of those allow you to create some custom landing pages. Also, as you're thinking of things like contest, I love tools like Rafflecopter, because a Rafflecopter is a tool that you can run a contest. You can have an email sign up as part of that contest. Depending on what the prize that you're giving away, you might choose to segment that email into a particular list. Not everybody has to be part of your main list. It could be maybe they're not a forever email subscriber. Maybe they're a subscriber just for this phase in their life. Because it's more important to have people opening your list than to have a big list. Yeah. I had this one client that was so proud of the fact that they had hundreds of thousands of people on their email list, but only about 20,000 of them opened up the email. Yeah. So it actually harmed deliverability. And so the more that if they actually had a pruned list that had a higher open rate, then they can actually have a better sense of what's really performing, and they can increase their newsletter with the right people.
Yeah, I have a very small email list comparatively, but I have an extremely high open rate because I trim the dead wood. I don't keep people who don't open my email. If you have an email list that's not buying from you already, you have to be willing to lose every single person on that list and replace them with somebody who will buy from you, because why are they on your list if they're not purchasing?
If they've never opened your email in like a year,
There's
are
a
you
cost.
keeping
You're
them on?
paying for
Maybe
that.
you might be keeping them on just so you can say in your media kit, my email list is this. And then you're selling it to brands because based on the size of your audience, except it's not really a true metric, and you at heart know that. And then later on when the brand pays for that inclusion and doesn't perform, they're going to know it too. So there's a big difference between vanity numbers and actual performance. There's a big difference between traffic versus sales. If I have a lot of crappy traffic and none of it converts to sales or affiliate links or any of that, so I got traffic. Who cares?
I like to run lean and mean and have things that work. I don't care about big numbers.
Well,
That's
I think
not what
too
I
that
sell.
when you're building the list, you want to make sure you're building the right people. So even if you're doing something like a contest and a giveaway, think about like, is this a contest or a one-pager or an ebook that would only appeal to the people who make sense? Like if you're throwing out something like an Amazon gift card, you can get everybody and their brother, and they're not really going to give two
You get a lot of
craps about your topic.
contesters.
Exactly. So, but if you're giving away, like, if you have a website that teaches bloggers how to make money and your giveaway is a book that off of Amazon or a book that you've done, then your people aren't going to enter that contest unless they're really interested. So I just get nervous about contests as list building because you can end up with people who just want to win something.
You can find the right kind of contest. I mean, obviously
Exactly.
your prize ideally should relate to what you're trying
They should
to
be
do.
really closely tied, I think.
And one thing we failed to mention on the Facebook slide, but I wanted to kind of cover here since we're talking about quantity versus quality, is likewise on Facebook, it's better to have an engaged audience that really engages with your posts than to just try to build it up with as many people as possible where it's like this status and then you can win this, and it's something that's not connected to it. One of the best ways, if your page is under 100,000 fans, to increase your fans is if you have a post and everybody that likes that post or engages with that post, you can actually, if you click over them, you can hover them and you can click invite to like the page. The people that, because they've already shown that they're engaged with your page, they're the kind of person that will engage by clicking like, by commenting, whatever. And then if you invite them to like your page, they're more likely to be engaged with your page than somebody else. So that's a great tip. If your page is over 100,000 fans, that doesn't work as much. But you're kind of in a different, almost a different league at that point. But certainly when you're growing a page initially, that's a great way of getting some really engaged people in. Repurposing content.
And we touched on this a little bit already, but I think
we did touch on this a little bit. So one of the biggest mistakes that people make in general is that they invest all of this time and attention into building new content. I'm going to invest in all this new content, and then they don't really promote the content. And so that is a problem because you're not really putting your time where it gets the best return on your investment. So you're wasting time. So one of the things that you should be doing is you should be testing your content, reusing it, republishing if needed. You should be, bundling it together. You should be doing ebooks. Oh, thank you, you're so nice. Any kind of roundups. So I know people where they're hesitant to get off this content creation churn because they don't want their blog to appear stale. But you can create some inexpensive content in the form of roundups and other things that can keep your page looking fresh, so you still have some new content coming while you're really focusing on trying to repurpose and edit and re-promote your current content. You guys have both done a lot of this on your sites and successfully worked with your communities to do it too. You want to talk about some of your best tips? Go first.
I mean, I would say, the repurposing, it seems like a lot of times it takes so little effort.
Well, and I think one thing to do, especially if you have recipes, is if you've got like years and years of recipes, look at your recipes for summer, for Christmas.
Yeah, actually a calendar, and that's one thing when I did do all that, I made out an editorial calendar so that I could pull in things that were seasonal and focus on it about a month or two out of having that get revamped.
And pull those into an ebook and share that on your sidebar. Make it a download for people to sign up to your email list. Use what you've already had to create that giveaway to get people on your email list, something that's very attractive. Your top post, your top couple of posts on the same topic that's especially relevant to your blog. Package it up, make it nice. If you've got a lot of great content, say on fall crockpot cooking, make it into an actual ebook cookbook. So anything like that where you can work smart and not work hard.
And also going through and evaluating your current assets. I had one client where, we were actually able to get their site to hundreds of thousands of unique visitors per month just from SEO based on 50 posts because they were well done, well SEO'd posts. And so they really just loved creating content because creating content was fun, but it was also one of the most expensive things that they could do because they paid for premium photography, they paid for people to do recipe development, they paid for DIYs. And so one of the conversations that we had to have is, hey guys, I like creating content too, but if you only have X amount of money in your budget, and I could put that into creating new content, or I could put that into promoting your existing content through effective ads and other things, one is going to be more effective for you. So it's that was the thing that they had to do.
Well, I think it's good too to do both, but you know I think there's just an overemphasis on it needing to be new content.
Overemphasis sometimes on new content. So one of the things that they did is they took that existing content. We went through, we made a list of all of them, and then I had somebody on the team write 5 Twitter posts for each of these articles. Pick 4 pins that we're going to make for each of these. So we then created a list of social assets per post that we had. So every month as we were doing the editorial calendar, when we wanted to share our own content, we had all of that created, kind of that asset library based on it. Then if we knew a particular social post did well, we could reuse that social post in the next month and kind of constantly be adding, but you had kind of an archive or library of which posts do well. So that's a really effective way of repurposing your content. Interactive elements to share. So one of the things we had mentioned before was Facebook Live. So if you do a Facebook Live, you can later on embed that on your blog. So say you have a blog post promoting that Facebook Live, you can then update that Facebook Live and take that video and actually embed it on your website as well. It's another cheap way of getting video on your site.
And also quizzes. Quizzes do really well. And the tool that I've heard about, Interact quizzes, I believe that they also have an element at the end to where for people to see the results of the quiz, they have to sign up for your email. So that is a way to do something very targeted. I wouldn't do anything random. I would do something very targeted to the audience that you're seeking to get the proper emails at the end.
But it does really work. I mean, Quizzer is another one that we've used, QZZR. And so some of those interactive things. Another thing you can do is you can make a post that has a series of video clips in it. And so that can be a really effective thing. You can also then, if you own the video clips, you can then directly upload them to Facebook as a teaser for that post. So you're sharing that video there. Facebook loves video, and then you can ultimately drive people to your site. And still also use that on YouTube. So the same piece of content can get things in a lot of different places. Other thing we were talking about interactive elements is having the comment section enabled in your blog so the comments can happen through Facebook. We had some differing opinions on this as to how people felt about it.
Oh, on our site, we just control the comments. It's not a big draw for us, although I'm thinking about testing it just to see what it's like. But we have a very civil comment section, and I like it that way. I think that, having people who love to argue in your comment section is a great way to get traffic, but that's not the traffic I want.
Yeah. I think that I'm losing my train of thought. I think, getting the traffic that you specifically want is obviously important. And I think, too, engaging. Like, sometimes you can just use the interactive elements to engage with people and make them feel like they know you personally better or know your topics better.
So I love enabling Facebook comments because it gets people really interacting, and if they're commenting and the comments appear on Facebook, if people get interested enough in that comment thread, they are going to click back to read your post.
Yeah.
So it pulls in more people. Speaking of way to pull in people, we have 2 women here who have both run successful groups and communities. What tool do you guys use to run your groups and communities?
I don't use any tools. Sometimes I will schedule things to post for me automatically, but I have, we run a small, tight group. We've got about 2,000 women, all who blog, all over 40 and 50, and I keep the group small on purpose. I've seen a lot of big groups lately, large communities, private communities on Facebook, completely erupt, and part of it is if they grow too big too fast, you lose the flavor, you lose that community feeling, and you have new people who don't kind of get the ethos, and older people who are resentful that people no longer remember how it was. So I have very controlled growth because I set the tone, and my business partner, we set the tone, and so we encourage sharing. So we're small but tight.
So you run them on Facebook groups?
Private Facebook community.
Private Facebook communities.
Yeah. And it's a way that we share our own content, and we encourage our members to share content, and that gives me places to draw from for my social shares. Like I like to share their content on my Facebook page, on Twitter. It's a great source for roundups and also for just mutual support.
Okay. Syndication. This can be an effective way of getting traffic to your site, and actually it can go both ways. So if you are syndicating posts on your site, and both of these ladies have done that, and I've also done this for clients, you might not get the SEO cred, but you can still have enormous amounts of traffic that you can promote to that post through social and through your email newsletter. So it can still be a great way of filling up your site with relatively inexpensive yet high quality content.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk a little bit about your process of how you work with the writers on your site to syndicate and how it gets traffic?
That's mainly what I do. I curate a lot of content from my private community. I have paid columnists as well, but since my site gets more traffic than very often their blogs, it's a good way for them to build an audience. It's a good link back for them. It's a good link back for me, and also, you know, if you when you work with your competition, very often that can be a big leg up too. So you want to find people who will work with you even if you're in the same niche, because there can be a lot of power in that.
I think so too.
Yeah, I believe in collaboration.
And the other thing that we talked about is if you have posts on your site, one of the ways in which you can get more traffic and more eyeballs on them is to syndicate. What are some of your favorite places to syndicate your own content where, you know, get it republished?
Well, Medium's great. Huffington Post still has a lot of value. I don't know if this is still viable now, but I had a friend who had a post go viral on Huffington Post, and she, in her bio, had a link to her book, and she sold thousands of dollars worth of her book because her funny post about passing gas during an MRI went globally viral. So
you can also you can syndicate on, like, the Today has a Today Parents community where you can syndicate
Scary
things.
Mommy still
Scary
is a good
Mommy
source.
does, Blog Her. If you've got B2B type of posts, writing an article or kind of republishing an article from your blog post on LinkedIn can also be very effective as well.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn can be really effective, especially with B2B
For
kind
anything
of stuff.
professional, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think too that beyond traffic, if you're just thinking about exposure, I mean, a lot of times some of those places, you know, I wouldn't do all your content in any of those places, but it has legs that you're not going to have on your own site. So
Yeah.
even if it's just the exposure and the awareness and a link to your profile or whatever.
And professional reputation building.
Exactly. So there's a lot of benefits to it beyond just I need the traffic on my own site.
And that's why it's kind of a win-win. I mean, I had a client last year where they wanted to double their traffic, and they didn't really have a content budget. So we doubled the traffic through syndication. We syndicated posts, and then we used our budget to promote them effective advertising on social media. We were promoting the post through Facebook Boost, if it was the right kind of post, through Pinterest ads, and we were also using email marketing and certain contests that might be linked to one of those posts. So if somebody had a great post about weight loss, we could link it to a contest that we were giving away a bunch of workout clothes. So even though we weren't getting the SEO juice for these because we did all the proper crediting where they were counted as the original author in Google, we were able to drive hundreds of thousands of visits to these posts that we syndicated from other people. So it was great for them because they got, you know, a link back to their site,
Yeah.
they got more publicity, and it was also great for my client who was able to increase their traffic. So certainly advertising and choosing to invest your time and your budget wisely is kind of the right path, and for that we've got Q&A.
Yeah,
and
we're
Ann
ready
wants
for
to be
it.
a mic wrangler.
Are we on, Brian? Test, sibilance. So, yeah, I'm going to mic wrangle because we need to get your questions on.
We're sorry there's so much content. I mean, we've
Audio.
done this in the past where it's literally like a half day, you know, and you're spending an hour on each one of these slides with more detail for everybody. So we're trying to do a good overview.
When I hand you the mic, stand up, say your name, and say your website, please.
Really, all of that? My name is Jeff. Two websites, www.theemailcompany.com and theemailguide.com. We do email marketing. So a few questions. One, do you recommend a service for doing closed caption text for videos? So I know there's third-party services that will actually do your closed caption and convert your words.
I have not used one of those. Have you guys used one?
Crowdsource, anyone recommend anything?
Anyone have a recommendation?
There's a tool called Wave,
Wave, W-A-V-E.
Animatron Wave. If you do the Google search, you can add video into it, you can put on captions of the post, and
Animatron Wave, Google that for captions, and it's multilingual.
it's not captions, but you can put text on it,
Mhm.
text on the video, your photo, and that's great.
Okay, great.
When I've used the Lumen 5, it allows us to have the text on there, and we've mainly done kind of shorter things for clients through that. Otherwise, we're often doing our own captions manually, but I'm sure that there's tools. I can look it up and send you some that people recommend.
The other one was you talk about really promoting your video on Facebook, and I'm just wondering, what about when you're trying to build juice on YouTube? So
you do it on both.
I would do it on both.
I absolutely do it on both. I mean, we have a lot of as seen on TV clients, and YouTube is just their biggest channel. We didn't talk about YouTube as much in here simply because we had to limit the stuff to fit within the time. Yeah. But we've certainly done, we upload, if it's like a commercial, we'll upload it natively on Facebook, and we'll boost that ad a lot. But ultimately, the YouTube can be much more effective, and we will put the things on YouTube, properly tag them, try to have a good commenting strategy on YouTube, and also do some YouTube advertising as well to drive traffic to those. The only problem is that obviously if I could do it all just on YouTube, I would, but Facebook penalizes you if you try to upload a YouTube on there. So I've just noticed that they don't give you the same reach. So I kind of have to deal with theirs, which it is what it is.
Would that be not duplicate content because you have the same video?
If you have a video on Facebook and you have a video on YouTube, that doesn't count under the duplicate content. It's because it's just the way that it is. They count it as two different videos.
Well, I think too, like it's pretty standard practice to cross post. I mean, I don't think it would take a big hit. And YouTube is a search engine.
Second biggest search engine,
Yep, it's been the second biggest for a while.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hirsch. I have well-traveled kids. And my question is, I need to learn how, you were talking about when you go into Facebook to sponsor something, how you can put in these cultivated lists, like with your email address and then find stuff. Are there videos that you can watch? What do you
Facebook
look
Ad
up
Manager has its own help section and its own videos. So you won't even see those features unless you go into Facebook Ad Manager.
Yeah, you have to dig in sometimes into their menu.
When you're at the very top right of basically the desktop in Facebook, and you click, you'll see you want to go into Ad Manager. So I think they want to make more money, so they pop up these like boost this or whatever, but go into
do not click it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Facebook Ad Manager actually has an app for your phone.
There is an app for that. I would say I have.
And when it offers it up to you in your stream, no, don't
but
touch it.
Not in your stream. Not like when they promote it to you and they're like, boost this.
Well,
I always go through Ad Manager, which has its own app.
Yeah. So get the Ad Manager app and go into Facebook. Like I said, it's in one of those, somewhere in that right menu, you'll see Ad Manager or something like that. Go in there and get all set up and comfortable in that area.
Does that kind of tell you how to pick
Wait. Let me say that again, please. Oh.
They don't help you pick the demographics, but you can test different demographics. So I actually will do a sheet where maybe I would test, like, I might test the same ad with like 2 or 3 different demographics, see which one performs, and then focus in on that one. And then you can also test different kind of call to action in different photos. I try to do that testing within the same demographics. Kind of once I've picked the demographic, then I might test that. But ultimately, if you have an ad that performs, I mean, we've had clients where once they find the ad that performs, they could use that same ad until it stops being effective. Sometimes months, sometimes 5-6 months or more, and it still keeps performing. And as long as it's performing, it doesn't have to be a new ad. But you might also want to use it to boost some of your new posts. But there's so many different kinds of ads on there. I could teach like a whole thing just on that.
We should do that next time.
You should do that.
Yeah.
Good morning, ladies. My name is EJ Falone. I have my blog is called atimetoshop.com. I have actually 2 questions, and thank you so much for this information because I've learned a lot today.
Good.
First, today, the first question: how do you guys manage all your sites? That's one of the things I kind of like was just picturing in my head. I'm like, I can't imagine you guys running so many sites or so many blogs and just be sane. And the second question, I guess you guys mentioned earlier was the permalinks. I guess I don't want to put the dates. I guess somebody was talking about silos the other day and put it into categories so Google can actually read it. I just didn't understand that whole concept, so I want to know what were your thoughts on that.
Well, as far as managing multiple sites, I think any site that you see that's big, either somebody is super efficient and they've got a daily checklist, a weekly checklist. First of all, you want to organize your processes that you do daily, weekly, and monthly, and you want to have an actual checklist, like so that way you don't get distracted, you don't spin your wheels. Also, any site that's big, they probably also have an army of virtual assistants, VAs. VAs are the secret to great blogs. Very typically, we'll find them through word of mouth. We'll find them through private Facebook groups of bloggers. If you're in a good Facebook group with bloggers, very often a lot of the women who are there, or a lot of the people who are there, they're not just women, are the assistants as well. So in a great group, like I think my favorite Facebook group for bloggers is Courage to Earn. It's time for us to go. But Courage to Earn is great. What's another one that you guys recommend as far as a good group to join for bloggers?
Type A Parent.
Type A Parent. Me if you're over 40 and a woman, although I don't judge. What's the one that Amy and Jesse have?
Oh, and there's
Totally Profesh. Totally Profesh is very good as well.
What is the one that Vera and Audrey have?
Vera and Audrey is Permission to Hustle.
Permission to Hustle,
These are
that's a
all
good
the
one.
best blogging groups, general blogging groups online or on Facebook. They're very, very valuable. And it's a good, when I get in there and I kind of know the lay of the land, then I feel comfortable saying who's got a good VA they can recommend. And then people who are VAs pop out and say, me, I'll do it.
The other tip I have for you guys, and so obviously I own an agency, so I have a staff, but one of the things that I do is I have to make sure that we are giving the best work for our money to our clients. So I have everybody use Toggle. And for every task that we do, we're tracking it in Toggle. So I can see at the end of the month, okay, where did we put our effort in for a particular client? And that way I can redirect to the things that are the most effective tasks. So if I find, okay, we spent 80% of our time on this one task and it didn't work, well, then I can increase our performance for that client by focusing them on focusing our time, more of the time on the things that do work. And so it's a better way of feeding out kind of what's inefficient. Even doing time tracking for yourself as a small business owner might help you understand where you're spinning your wheels and where you can be more efficient.
Okay, we need to wrap up. Wow, thank you guys.
Thank
I was
you.
super nervous, but great group. You're all so pretty.